Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the Managing Director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. In this video, we're going to be discussing some further developments. It's just kind of a further discussion regarding the possible permutations, if you will, of Trump immigration reform. This is a White House sort of press release, if you will, White House framework on immigration reform and border security. I'm not going to go into the border security stuff, and I'm not going to go into DACA legalization. There's plenty of other commentators that may be out there to talk about those. Most notably, they're looking for funding for the proposed borders, specifically the border security, specifically the wall, the so-called wall. And then with respect to DACA legalization, there seems to be bipartisan bickering with respect to how that's going to ultimately play out. But I continue to stress 2 points for those who are not particularly involved with the DACA issue or the border issue, because over here in Asia, those really don't hit too close to home with most folks that live out here or are Asian American, etc., or just expats. But a couple of things to note. So within this White House framework on immigration reform and border security, and you can look this up, this is released by them, quoting directly, protect the nuclear family. Protect the nuclear family by emphasizing close familial relationships. Promote nuclear family migration by limiting family sponsorships to spouses and minor children only for both citizens and LPRs, that's lawful permanent residents. Ending extended family chain migration. Over and over, I've discussed this on this channel. So-called chain migration seems to be an issue of this administration. And I've noted before that, especially sort of on the more, I won't say tenuous, but on the more extended end of some of the preference categories, the preference family-based categories, I've always said that, yeah, it's maybe only a matter of time before we see these possibly go the way of the wild goose, if you will. Most notably, things like brother-sister petition. So the brother or sister of a permanent of a U.S. citizen, they can be beneficiaries of a petition by a U.S. citizen for benefits such as green card status. That's sort of a throwback to a different time. I've discussed that in more detail, but I think ultimately, in however the final form of a possible Comprehensive Immigration Reform Act that comes out of this administration, out of this Congress, I think you're definitely going to see at least some change to the immigration apparatus with respect to so-called extended family members. Most notable, I did a video on this topic specifically and read from the proposed bill, the proposed legislation, the actual language in the bill, which seemed to me, I concluded that it looks like there's a strong probability that parents of U.S. citizens who are not themselves U.S. citizens or lawful permanent residents probably are not going to be extended the same kind of benefits under a possible Trump Comprehensive Immigration Reform Act, as well as brothers and sisters. I think that's pretty safe to say. Now, everyone in between, how they're going to shake out in that spectrum, it remains to be seen. It seems clear, at least for now, stepchildren and spouses are going to be they're going to be operating under the same system that's been operating up to this point, but we don't know. It could change. Another thing, apply these changes prospectively, not retroactively, by processing the backlog. This was an issue that I brought up in other videos that, we didn't quite know how it was going to operate. Were they going to look backwards at previously filed cases and say, no, we're going to kick those back out? I always felt like that was probably not going to happen. It seems to be that is in fact the case, that this administration is not looking to punish those who are operating under the law previously, but simply looking to change the law moving forward. Now, that being said, those who are watching this video who do have siblings, they're U.S. citizens, for example, who do have siblings that they might want to eventually bring to the United States in lawful permanent resident status, now is the time to seriously consider filing. Because if you're in and you've already filed, there seems to be a strong likelihood, if not possible, I won't say a certainty, but I think there's a good likelihood that those folks are going to be sort of grandfathered in, if you will, and they'll just be processed in the backlog, notwithstanding the fact that people in the same relationships would not be able to file for those benefits moving forward past the Comprehensive Immigration Reform Act. Here's another one I've said, I brought up in the past, which is noted here, quoting directly. Eliminate lottery and repurpose visas. The visa lottery selects individuals at random to come to the United States without consideration of skills, merit, or public safety. This program is riddled with fraud and abuse and does not serve the national interest. Eliminate lottery and reallocate the visas to reduce the family-based, quote-unquote, backlog, that's their quotes, and high-skilled employment backlog, their quotes again. I've said this before, I'll say it again, I don't have any particular issue with the diversity visa lottery scheme. I can see the reasons behind it, I can see the pros, I can see the cons. I don't really have a dog in that fight, so to speak. That being said, I've always felt like that one of the first things on the chopping block would probably be the diversity visa program because, and as noted in this release, it does take up a certain number of the visa numbers issued every year, and also it does take up resources, time and resources with respect to processing, for example. And so I've always kind of felt like, yeah, if there was going to come a day when comprehensive immigration reform would be brought about, I always kind of figured watch the diversity visa lottery because I think there was going to be a good chance that may go the way of the wild goose. So the two things to take away from this video with respect to family-based immigration, especially from out here in Southeast Asia, is first of all, those extended family members, if one is seriously thinking about possibly any time in the future getting their parents or getting their brothers and sisters or any extended family, if they qualify into the United States, might be a good time to seriously consider doing that now before the law changes, because we don't know what it's going to look like in the future. The other thing to think about, well, there's not really much to do with respect to the visa lottery, but the other thing to think about is, the visa lottery itself may or may not be there in the near future. So those folks who are trying to perhaps find a route to the United States by use of that program, keep trying for as long as it exists, because it seems at least logical that ultimately comprehensive immigration reform is probably not going to include the visa lottery.